Prata smarami hridi samsfuratmatmatvam Satchit sukham paramaham sagatim turiyam Yat swapna jagara sushuptim avaiti nityam Tad brahma nishkalamaham nacha bhuta sangaha Tapo bhikshina papana Shantanam vitaragina Mumukshunam apekshoyam Atma bodho vidhiyate Bodhonya sadhanebhyo hi Sakshan mokshaika sadhanam Pakasya vahni vajnanam Vina moksho na siddhyati. Hari Om. Welcome back to the Gems of Bhagavad Gita. We will continue our discussion on the 20 qualities of a Jnani. कल हम चर्चा कर रहे थे पहले ही कुछ गुणों के, and we will continue our discussion. There are 20 qualities. I think we've covered the first 7. The first 7 qualities have been covered by us. Just one second. Yes. Humility, unpretentiousness, harmlessness, forgiveness, uprightness, service to the preceptor, purity, steadfastness, and self-control. We covered the first 9 qualities yesterday, and we ended with self-control. And while ending the class, I said, self-control is not self-denial. Self-control is not self-denial. जब भी कंट्रोल की बात आती है, लोग उसे समझ नहीं पाते. That's the problem. Those who understand control, they excel. But most of us, we don't understand control. Self-control does not mean self-denial. Self-control is nothing but a sense of proportion. Self-control is nothing but a sense of proportion. कितना क्या करना, किस हद तक करना, कितना खाना, क्या खाना, कितने बजे खाना. ये नहीं कह रहे कि मत खाओ, ये नहीं कह रहे कि आप कंप्लीटली एब्सटेन करो. आपकी जो इच्छाएं हैं, आपकी जो डिजायर्स हैं, whatever desires you have, you will helplessly be attracted to those things. But how much you contact them, how you regulate and moderate your choices, and इस control, इस proportion को करने के लिए you will have to have a strong बुद्धि. ये बस बुद्धि और मन का खेल है. आपका मन हेल्पलेसली अट्रैक्ट होता है सेंस ऑब्जेक्ट्स की तरफ, इमोशनल ऑब्जेक्ट्स की तरफ, कई चीजों की तरफ आपका मन हेल्पलेसली अट्रैक्ट होता है. योर इंटेलेक्ट हैज टू कम इन एंड पुट इन अ सेंस ऑफ प्रोपोर्शन. योर इंटेलेक्ट हैज टू डिसाइड. योर इंटेलेक्ट हैज टू बी द डिसीजन मेकर. राइट नाउ योर माइंड इज द डिसीजन मेकर. एवरीथिंग इज फंक्शनिंग एट द मर्सी ऑफ द माइंड. द माइंड इज लाइक अ चाइल्ड. उसको कुछ चाहिए, अगर वो मिले तो वो खुश है, अगर ना मिले तो रोना धोना सब कुछ. It'll start becoming cranky. But you can't run the house at the whims and fancies of the child, right? I hope so. I hope so. Your house doesn't run at the whims and fancies of the child. इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि जो बच्चा चाहता है उसे ना दो, एकदम ना दो. No, that's not what it means. You must cater to the mind a little bit. You must cater to the child a little bit. But you must have a sense of values. You must have a sense of proportion. And the child must follow it. The child must have a respect for those values of the house. So that is self-control. The intellect decides your values, your goals, your proportion of what is permitted, what is not permitted, how much is permitted. And accordingly, your mind follows. So you have to have a strong buddhi for this. There's no other way. You won't be able to control it. It requires a little bit of discipline. That's it. It requires a little bit of discipline. The problem is we even set our goals based on the mind. इंटेलेक्ट आती ही नहीं है. हम मन के हिसाब से गोल सेट करते हैं. मन को गिल्ट फील होती है और it suddenly realizes, oh, I want to improve things, and वो goal set कर देते हैं. This is what we call New Year's resolution. New Year's resolutions. This is the mind setting the goal. And what happens in New Year's resolutions? We decide, from today, I am not going to do this. I am not going to do that. Complete abstinence, going from 0 to 100. Why do you think New Year's resolutions don't last? People on average go to the gym 10 days in a year. And that's the first 10 days of the year. After the first 10 days, after the first month, all the gym memberships, everything goes down. Why? Because the mind set the goal. The mind set the direction. And that will not last. It needs an intellect. When the intellect sets the goal and you move towards your goal, you move towards in that direction, step by step, that's when you'll be able to maintain consistency. That's when you'll be able to maintain consistency. So self-control is not self-denial. जब mind goal set करता है, what do? We end up doing denial. जो हमें चाहिए वो हम नहीं करते. We do something completely opposite to our nature. That's why it doesn't last. That's why it doesn't last. Any goal you proceed towards, even in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Shanai, Shanai, go step by step, go slowly, slowly. You can't rush into anything. And you have to, whatever you want to introduce in your life, suppose you want to reduce something. Suppose you're drinking Coca-Cola 7 days a week. You're a Coca-Cola addict. I know some people, myself included. When I was a child, my Nanaji used to have a cold storage of Pepsi. So I jokingly say that I grew up drinking more Pepsi than water. भर भर के क्रेट आते थे. मुझे एक पेप्सी चाहिए. कितनी मिलती थी? 24 पेप्सी मिलती थी क्रेट में. Those were the days. Now, if you are used to drinking 1 Pepsi a day, you can't suddenly decide, from today I'm not drinking Pepsi. You'll be able to follow that for a few weeks, maybe a month. After that, it will come back with the vengeance. You have to slowly, slowly reduce. Reduce 7 days a week to 3 days a week, to 2 days a week, to 1 day a week. Slowly, slowly. You can't completely shift. You can't take a right turn. Right turn, अगर turn लेने जाते हो, if it's a sharp turn, it's not possible. You'll crash. You're already moving in a certain direction. Either you slow down. You can't take a sharp turn. For a smooth turn, the turn has to be gradual. For a smooth turn, the turn has to be gradual. Similarly, any change in your life, any regulation, any moderation has to be smooth. It can't be absolute. So self-control is that quality where you regulate, moderate, where you bring in a sense of proportion. And this proportion, this regulation, this moderation, this goal is determined by the buddhi. The buddhi is you, the capacity to think, reason, judge, decide, weigh, understand. So jnani is one whose buddhi is strong, who has a strong buddhi and whose mind is under control, whose mind is subservient to the buddhi. The buddhi feels what the mind wants. The mind respects what the buddhi decides. It's a beautiful relationship. The intellect feels, the intellect recognizes what the mind wants, just like a parent recognizes what a child wants and caters to it. And at the same time, the child respects the parent. The child respects the parent's direction. But for that, you'll have to have a strong buddhi. The parent itself will have to be developed. None of this will work if the parent only is not developed. That's the problem. The parents are not developed and they expect the children to follow. That is not possible. So, carrying on with more qualities of a Jnani, verse number 9. So, there are 5 verses 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The first 9 qualities are present in the first verse itself. There are about 3, 4 qualities in every verse following. So, we'll take them up very quickly. Verse number 9 of chapter 13. Indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankara eva cha janma mrityu jara vyadhihi dukkha doshanudarshanam. Indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankara eva cha janma mrityu jara vyadhihi dukkha doshanudarshanam. इंद्रियों के विषयों से वैराग्य और अहंकार का अभाव, साथ ही साथ जन्म, मृत्यु, जरा, रोग, दुख रूप दोषों को देखना. Dispassion towards sense objects. इंद्रियों के विषयों से वैराग्य, वैराग्य भाव towards all the attractions of the world. अहंकार का अभाव, absence of egoism, a complete victory over egoism. What is egoism? We'll discuss it. And a very interesting quality, perception of the pain and evil of birth, disease, old age, and death. Perception of the pain and evil of birth, disease, old age, and death. आप ये पढ़ोगे तो लगेगा अरे यार, this ज्ञानी is such a pessimist. कितना negative thinker है. Not so, not at all. We'll discuss this and you'll realize it is not negative thinking. It is the highest level of objectivity. It is the highest level of objectivity. And it's a very, very important quality. So one by one, we'll take it up. Dispassion towards sense objects. Dispassion, when you hear the word dispassion, when people hear the word dispassion, they say, oh, what a boring guy. कोई passion ही नहीं है, कोई excitement ही नहीं है. Dispassion doesn't mean the person is a boring fellow. Dispassion doesn't mean that the person has no likes and dislikes. Dispassion doesn't mean that he doesn't show excitement or joy or enjoyment. Dispassion means he is not drunk with passion. When you are passionate, you get flown away. When the mind's passions are so powerful, they'll completely make you lose your sense of awareness. So dispassion is a quality where you understand the limitations of things. You understand the limitations of things. When you are passionate, you lose a sense of proportion. You lose a sense of, you overvalue, you put a black market value, you exaggerate the importance of that thing, whatever you're passionate about. So dispassion is not the absence of passion. Please understand this. Dispassion is not the absence of passion. You must have passion, but not turn passionate. You must have emotion, but not turn emotional. There's a big difference in having emotion and being emotional. Having emotion is very important. It's what makes you human. Otherwise, you'll be a rock. Otherwise, you'll be a stone. But being emotional is being at the mercy of the emotion. Being emotional is having no control over the emotion. Being emotional is being completely swayed. An emotional person can't think. When you are in an emotional state, you can't think. When you are in a passionate state, you can't think. So to have a sense of suzerainty over your passion, to have a sense of suzerainty over your emotion, that is a virtue. That is a quality. That's a great quality. So this dispassion arises When you know, no doubt you have passions. No doubt you have passions. But you also understand the limitation of everything that the world can offer you. You also understand the limitation. Huh? That the senses by nature, the senses by design are attracted to sense objects. The senses by design are helplessly drawn to them. The senses by design drag the mind towards the sense objects. That's the design of nature. But do you have that objectivity within you? Do you have that awareness within you to not get swayed? That objectivity comes with knowledge, and that is dispassion. When that knowledge settles in you, when you understand that this is just another trick of nature, then you'll be able to regulate, then you'll be able to moderate, then you'll be able to control, then you'll be able to prioritize. Then you'll be able to prioritize what is important, what is not important. A jnani is one who has prioritized spiritual evolution above everything else, who has prioritized spiritual evolution above everything else. If you do not develop this dispassion, you won't be able to give yourself the spiritual direction. If you don't develop this dispassion, you won't be able to give yourself this spiritual direction. You'll completely remain, the world will keep attracting you. You'll keep spending your time and energy and chasing things, chasing enjoyments in the world. There's nothing right or wrong about this. Please don't get me wrong. Vedanta doesn't criticize. It doesn't make value judgments. To each their own. To each their own. But right now we're talking about a jnani. We're talking about someone who has established himself on the spiritual journeys and has reached a ways, has developed himself. And this is a natural outcome. Someone who develops a dispassion towards sense objects. Means what? That true joy is not in possession and acquisition and enjoyment. That is dispassion. Dispassion is that sense that my joy, my happiness is not dependent on the acquisition and enjoyment of something. When you're dispassionate, you're happy with it, you're happy without it. You're not dependent on it. Your source of happiness, your cause of happiness is not these sense objects. Yes, no doubt, if you get it, your senses are pleased. If you eat Belgian chocolate waffle, no doubt it'll cater to your senses. It'll be a great pleasure. But even if you eat dal chawal, it doesn't matter. It's great. So your happiness is not dependent on the objects. That is dispassion. When you are passionate, you're completely at the mercy. You get it, you're extremely happy. You don't get it, you've got it. You're disappointed, you're dejected, you're sad. So understanding the limitation. Understanding the limitation. You don't live to eat. A passionate person lives to eat. They travel half the world only to go to different restaurants. A dispassionate person eats to live. A dispassionate person eats to live. They understand food has a function. Food will make me survive. Whatever you want to give me on my plate, it's okay. As long as it's healthy, I'll eat it. So that dispassion towards sense objects, he puts all the things that the world has to offer in their place. He doesn't give them a black market value. He doesn't give them an exaggerated value. Money has a role to play. Wealth has a role to play. Experiences have a role to play. They cater to senses. They cater to emotions. But that's it. Don't give them a black market value. They're not the be-all and end-all of life. They're not the be-all and end-all of life. Life has a more important purpose. Your spiritual evolution is more important than all these mundane enjoyments that the world can offer. That is dispassion. Dispassion towards sense objects. Absence of egoism. there is not a whiff of ego. See, remember I said, the first bit of knowledge, half-baked knowledge will make you arrogant. The first bit of knowledge will make you arrogant. But as knowledge truly settles in you, you completely overcome your sense of ego. You completely overcome the weakness of your ego. Humility, amanitvam, the first quality of a jnani. The first indication that someone is established is that sense of humility and that absence of ego that comes in. The I, the me, the my is not the central focus anymore. See, some people have a terrible habit. Any conversation you start, they make it about themselves. Any experience you start telling them about, they say, yeah, even I experienced it one time, and they'll start talking about their experience. Helplessly they are egoistic. Any experience, they make it about themselves. Someone else is suffering, they make it about themselves. They bring their own suffering into it. So the egoism creeps up in many funny ways. It's not just arrogance. Egoism is what? The exaggerated value on I, on my body, my mind, my intellect, my experience, my joy, my happiness, my sorrow, my. That exaggerated value on your individuality is egoism. That exaggerated black market value on your individuality is egoism. A jnani has overcome this obsession with himself, this self-obsession. See, the ego, there are three expressions of the ego. Broadly speaking, if you have to study the subject of the ego, it's very important we understand these three expressions, because fundamentally all the expressions of the ego can be condensed into these broad categories. The first of all is the feeling of I am supreme. I am supreme is that sense of arrogance. You may not be anything, but that you get offended. When anybody says anything to you, that feeling of offense you get, how could you say it to me? Don't you know who I am? You must respect me. That sense of supremacy. And when we are not given respect, when we are not made to feel supreme, we feel dejection, we feel anger. So that feeling of supremacy, or that craving for supremacy, that desire for supremacy, is an expression of the ego. I am supreme. I am all important. I am the greatest. Or that desire to become the greatest, that desire to be the Lord of everything. That feeling of supremacy, I am supreme. The second expression of the ego, I alone exist. Deadly. At the intellectual level, I am supreme, that sense of arrogance. At the emotional level, I alone exist. My feelings alone matter. My wants and desires alone. See, I alone exist means you are blind to the existence of others. You're blind to the needs of others. You're blind to the wants of others. You're blind to... Swami used to give a wonderful example. Imagine two people are sitting in a sofa and watching some TV. A third person comes, takes the remote and changes the channel. Third person comes, takes the remote and changes the channel. What happens? That third person has come in and is completely blind. Is completely blind to the other two, what they are doing. Or imagine the third person comes and stands in front of the TV and starts talking to them. Completely unaware that the other two people are doing something. They may be enjoying something. They may be engaged in something. That lack of awareness. All you are aware of is what you need, what you want, what you are doing, what is important to you, what you are engaged in. That's all that matters. I alone exist. You're just not aware of others. You have no capacity to listen to others. You have no capacity to understand where they're coming from. How will you be empathetic? How will you have a sense of sympathy for others if you don't even have this capacity? So the more egoistic you are, this is the expression, I alone exist. You're just blind to others. You have to start becoming aware of others. That's it. No one's asking you to go all out and completely change your lifestyle. No one's asking you to go and do great grand things in the world. Just become aware. Charity begins at home. Become aware of those around you. Become aware of your family members. Whether you're an adult or a child, it doesn't matter. This applies to you. Become aware of your family members. Become aware of other people in your house, your domestic help, your security guard. Become aware of your driver. When was the last time you asked your domestic help how they are doing, how their family is? Simple. Just an awareness. I'm not saying you have to go and do something, you have to call their family, take them for a holiday or whatever. No, I'm not saying all of that. Just an awareness. Step outside your bubble. Step outside your bubble. You are not the center of the universe. When you are egoistic, you think you are the center of the universe. You alone exist. You alone matter. You don't matter. That's the blunt truth of life. You don't matter. The greatest of greatest people just get erased. One of the most beautiful things is when you go by the ocean. Go by the ocean, you're standing on the beach, a sandy beach, and आप जाके अपना नाम लिखते हो बीच पे. अपना नाम लिखो. And what happens? Within a few minutes, the waves come and wash it away. And beauty is, it doesn't wash away immediately. पहली बार करते हो तो थोड़ा हट जाता है. You can still see the outline of your name. Second time, little lesser. Third time, little lesser. Fourth time, it's completely gone. Everybody is forgotten. The greatest of greatest people get forgotten. So don't give yourself a black market value. Don't give yourself undue importance. You're not the only one that exists. I alone exist. That's a feeling of the ego. And the third expression of the ego, at the physical level, at the level of actions. So one was at the level of the intellect, at the level of ideas and thoughts, ideologies. I am supreme. I am the greatest. At the level of emotion, at the level of desires, I alone exist. My desires alone matter. My feelings alone matter. And at the level of action, kartritva bhavna, I am the doer. I am the doer. Deadly. The sense, that arrogation of doership, that sense of doership, it's repulsive. It ruins the activity. It ruins the action. It's a repulsive quality. To a spiritually evolved person, this quality stinks. It's smelly. Beautiful action someone does, but develops a sense of kartritva. I am the doer. When you develop this quality, you are just blind to the contribution of others. You're blind to the contribution of others. Again, you're putting a black market value on yourself and your own work. You're blind to the contribution of others. You're blind to everything that is supporting you. everything that is helping you do it. You are just an instrument. You are just one part of the action. You are maybe the executor. That's it. You're doing the last step. What about all the steps before that? Who has brought you here? Even your capacity to do something, even your skills, they are a gift of nature. Whatever you have been designed to do, whatever you have become skillful to do, it's a gift. But we arrogate it to ourselves and we develop a sense of arrogance. I am the doer. It ruins your actions. You are simply an instrument of action. You are simply the executor, the last mile. That's it. Whatever you're designed to do, just do it to the best of your ability. You are simply executing nature's plan. You're simply executing nature's plan. So whatever you're doing, big or small, everybody has a role to play. Everybody has a contribution. Don't be blind to the contribution of others in your life. Feel an attitude of gratitude. Feel a sense of gratitude and do whatever you're designed to do. Do whatever you're capable to do to the best of your ability with no extra grind. That is perfect action. Don't let this sense of egoism come in. It creeps in. It creeps in. And when the sense of egoism comes in, then the expectation and the wish and the hope that I get acknowledged, I get appreciated. The more the egoism, the more the doership, the more the desire, the expectation of appreciation, of acknowledgement. Again, I'm saying these are not right or wrong things. If you have 10% doership, you'll have 10% of an expectation for a appreciation. And you know, everybody has some percentage of doership, and naturally everybody has some percentage of a desire for an appreciation, for some visibility. And no doubt, when you get that appreciation, you feel good. It feels good. I'm confessing. But why does it feel good? Because the desire is getting fulfilled. And why is that desire there in the first place? Because you have a sense of doership. I'm just breaking down the components. I'm just breaking down the components. If you lose your sense of doership, you will have zero expectation of appreciation. The greatest of souls are not known. The greatest of souls are not known, not acknowledged, not appreciated. This is the way life functions. The greatest of people have come and gone, and you've not even got a whiff. We only know a few. We only know a few who break into prominence. Who knows a Swami Ramatirtha? Nobody. In fact, now some people are getting to know Swami Ramatirtha. Now he's becoming a little well known. Hundreds of saints and sages over the years, over the centuries have just come and gone. You don't even know of them. They've kept a low profile. So the greatest of people have come and gone. No sense of doership. And we've not even known them. Absence of egoism. No sense of doership. Perception of the pain and evil of birth, disease, old age and death. ये पढ़ के हमें डर लगता है, अरे ये कौन सा क्वालिटी है, मुझे नहीं चाहिए ये क्वालिटी. Perception of the pain and evil of birth, disease, old age, death. Very important quality. And it's not pessimism, it's not negativity, it's objectivity. It's objectivity. You are helplessly born into this world. You grow. You face diseases. You inevitably grow old. You begin to wither. And ultimately you perish. This is the cycle everybody is following. Each and every person. Whichever country they are born into, whatever color they are, whatever family they are, the richest or the poor, the most powerful, the most powerless, regardless of where you are born, you go through this process: birth, growth, disease, old age, death. Birth, growth, disease, old age, death. This is a process every single being is going through. For what? First of all, it is painful. Birth is painful, isn't it? I don't remember, but mothers out here will know how painful it is. And babies, they come out crying. Must be painful only. Huh? Must be painful for them. Birth is painful. It's a laborious process. Huh? It's a laborious process. Growth is painful. Just the other day, I was reminded, when we are young and we grow taller, our limbs hurt. That growth causes hurt on our limbs. But that apart, growth is also painful. Growth means you have to leave behind the old. How painful was it to leave junior school to go to middle school? Right now you're joking. Right now you say, no, it wasn't painful. But put yourself in the shoes of the junior school child who has to leave junior school and go to middle school, who has to leave all his old classmates behind. One of the most terrifying things, you have to scare a child. You have to scare a child, tell them, I'll send you to boarding school. I'll send you to boarding school. Leaving school and going to college is painful. No doubt it is growth. You're opening new avenues. You're moving ahead in life. But that growth is painful because you have to leave behind the old and you have to face the new. So it is painful. Disease, I don't have to explain. And as you grow, diseases begin to appear. Diseases begin to appear. You get more and more vulnerable to nature. It's something you cannot escape. And it is painful. Ultimately, you start to wither. You start to become frail. You lose your youth. Your skin begins to wither. Your eyesight worsens. Your capacity to hear, the pranas in you, begin to perish. That's old age. That's old age. And it's painful. All the things you were capable of doing 10, 15 years ago, suddenly one day you realize, I'm not able to do them anymore. It's painful. And ultimately, all of this ends up in tata bye-bye, in death. Death is painful for the person who is going through it. For 9 out of 10 people, it is painful. They're not ready to go. They're not wanting to go. And for, of course, everyone around them. So this is a helpless process, a cycle of nature. And it is painful. Let's be objective about it. And now let's talk. Why are we doing this? For what are we doing this? Why are we going through this cycle? First of all, this is not the first time you're going through this cycle. A jnani with an insight into life understands this is not the first time I'm going through this cycle. He considers the theory of reincarnation. You came here. Where did you come from? You're leaving from here. Where are you going to? You came here with a personality, with vasanas, with qualities, with tendencies. Where did those qualities, tendencies, vasanas come from? Now, don't tell me it's in your genes. Nothing is there in your genes. Only the shape of your nose and the color of your skin are in your genes. Your qualities, you may be a completely different person from your parents whose genes you carry. You may have a completely different nature. Of course, there are similarities. But the kind of person you are, the qualities, the vasanas, have nothing to do simply with the genes. I'm saying genes doesn't cover it all. Where do they come from? There is an individuality you're carrying with you at birth. There is an individuality you live with. Anybody on the deathbed, they have a personality, they have vasanas, they have desires, they have unfulfilled desires, They have all sorts of hopes and ashas and things that they maybe haven't found fruition to in this life. They have so many regrets maybe that they want to change. Huh? They want another chance. Life, give me another chance. I want to change it. What happens to all of these subtle matter? What happens to all of these vasanas? That's the theory of reincarnation. You haven't come. You have come from somewhere. This is not the beginning. And you are going somewhere. This is not the end. Death is not the end. Birth is not the beginning. So you have gone through many births and you will go through many lives. You have gone through many lives and you will, after this life, you will go through many lives. Question arises, for what? Why are we doing this? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janini jatare shayanam, iha samsare bahudustare. Iha samsare bahudustare. Adi Shankaracharya recognizes this. This samsar, it's riddled with sorrow. For what am I going through this again and again and again and again? That perception, I need to reach the end of this cycle. It is my short-sightedness. It is my impulsive, instant gratification. I can't see beyond my nose. That keeps me stuck in this cycle. Whatever my mind wants right now, I'm completely slave to it. I cannot see the big picture. I'm not able to see the big picture. Wherever I am right now, I'm completely consumed by my mind's desires and my mind's feelings and my mind's worries and anxieties and hopes. I cannot see this large picture. So this is what he is calling evil out here. This impulsive, desire-ridden state of the mind is the evil, and it keeps you locked in the cycle. It prevents you from even asking the question, what do I want? You talk about this knowledge, and most people will say, okay, I'll come to it. Right now, I don't have time for it. Right now, I'm completely absorbed in something. I have this problem, that problem. I have this to take care of. I have this to address. I'll come to it later. Nobody has time for this. Nobody wants to listen to this. That evil completely keeps you absorbed in your day-to-day preoccupation. Rare is the person who is able to zoom out and see this helpless procession of life again and again and again and again. A jnani is one who has zoomed out of life. A jnani is one who has zoomed out of life. And when you zoom out, you see things function. You see the process. You must learn to zoom out of life. It's a completely different perspective. You must learn to gain this different perception of being an observer. Of being an observer. We will discuss this quality of being an observer, of zooming out tomorrow, and we'll discuss the further verses as we continue our study of chapter 13 and these qualities. So with that thought, we'll end today's class, and I'll see you here tomorrow at 7 a.m. same place. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.